The Super Bowl is coming up, so we have to offer our takes on the big game today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make us your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100.
Joe, Super Bowl 58. Preview show, you and me, starting with kind of the bread and butter of this show. I'm very excited.
Yeah, man.
How do these teams in this show is how are these teams put together?
Yeah.
We're going to do that.
A lot of thoughts on that, Kyle Crabbs. A lot of thoughts on that.
So let's start with your biggest. You made the request for this to be the first thing we talked about today on the show. So I assume you have a lot of things that you want to get off your chest, which I will grant you the chance to do here and now.
Well, I think what's fascinating about these two teams and how they got here is that there's very, very different paths in terms of their core philosophies for team building, where I think the Chiefs have been very deliberate about accumulating some early draft capital, and not like early in the first round, but early picks, right? They've been willing to move on from some talent. They've been really willing to reset certain parts of their roster, where the Chiefs, the 49ers have been reluctant to pick early in the draft and have been more than willing to part with premium draft capital to go get players, right? So I think at their core, you've seen a big difference in that regard. But as maybe we focus in on the Chiefs to start this, one thing that has become really, really apparent to me, and I've already referenced this, is the willingness of Kansas City to reset and not put themselves in positions where they're overly committed to players and they are willing to put younger players in those spots. And I think certainly having Patrick Mahomes helps with your ability to do that. But throughout this tremendous run by Kansas City, you've seen them completely redo their offensive tackles, redo their interior offensive line, redo their wide receivers, redo their secondary. Like just literally in a year, they flush the whole thing and have new players in there, which allows them to perpetually be younger and cheaper, which helps them navigate the world of the salary cap while paying Patrick Mahomes lots of money and paying Chris Jones and Travis Kelce and other really good players lots of money. Their ability to offset that by resetting and allowing young players to fill spots, I think is a big reason why Kansas City is able to find themselves in this position once again.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, you just look at 2020 and more recently than that class specifically, where Kansas City in 2020, that draft class is often associated with, wow, they swung and missed on a running back in the first round with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They got a starting linebacker in Willie Gay, and they got L'Jarius Snead in the fourth round. They get a rotational pass rusher, Mike Dana, in the same class, right? 2021, you got Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith in the same draft class.
Unbelievable, right?
2022 was McDuffie, Karlaftis, Brian Cook, Josh Williams at corner, Isiah Pacheco in the seventh round, and Jalen Watson's gotten some run at corner.
Huge,
as well,
huge.
Right? That's one draft class.
Huge.
That's like three consecutive draft classes. And then, by the way, this year you've got Rashee Rice, who stepped up and played a really critical role for this team down the stretches, like the best perimeter wide receiver on the team after the first month of the season. So it's just on an annual basis. And, Trey Smith was a 6th round pick. L'Jarius Snead was a 4th round pick. Isiah Pacheco was a 7th round. There's examples of these hits, not just with the early picks, but the volume of picks that you've made. And then you contrast that with San Francisco. Who are the two best players from each draft class San Francisco's made since 2020?
Okay, so since 2020?
So it's Kinlaw, Aiyuk, McKivitz, Warner, and Juwan Jennings was the class of 2020.
So all contributors, and some of those are good starters for them.
Okay, now 2021, Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, Trey Sermon, Ambry Thomas, Jalen Moore, Diamador Lenore, Talanoa Hufanga, Elijah Mitchell.
I mean, a starter in Aaron Banks, Diamador Lenore's a starter. Hufanga's a stud. Obviously, he's hurt. You got contributors here.
Contributors, but the magnitude of I want to drive home the point of the discrepancy in how big of contributors the key players of the draft classes are. They're starters, but they're not assets in the way that Kansas City's getting assets.
Right.
2022, Drake Jackson, Tyrion Davis-Price, Danny Gray, Spencer Burford, Samuel Womack, Nick Zeckles, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro-Fields, Brock Purdy. So that's my question for you. This year's draft class was Jair Brown, Jake Moody, Cameron Latu, Darrell Luter, Robert Beal, D. Winters, Braden Willis, Ronnie Bell, Jalen Grant. What does San Francisco look like if Brock Purdy was not Mr. Irrelevant and their pick with the last three draft classes, 2021, 2022, and 2023? What does this team look like if Brock Purdy's not a part of that mix?
It's a fascinating question. I think you can look at the inventory of quarterbacks in the past and realize that they got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. They've had some success with some plug-in guys like Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. But, obviously Brock Purdy's a huge part of this, and it's the team making the trade that they did for Trey Lance and it flaming out like it did. That's typically going to set most teams back, right? Considerably, maybe even multiple years. It didn't matter for this team. I think part of that.
San Francisco will be dead last in the league in cash spending at quarterback next year, by the way. Their quarterback room currently is on the books for $1 million.
Yeah. They've also have offset that with, they do have some hits later in the draft and the contributors that are low cost, but they've offset that with some pricey players like a Hargrave.
Right. And that's the core divide between the two teams.
Well, they also drafted a lot of these players that just wasn't recently, and George Kittle and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk. But they've also traded for Christian McCaffrey, signed Javon Hargrave, right? But there's been a good mix. Trent Williams, huge piece of what this team is. Sending away DeForest Buckner and resetting the money there at defensive tackle. I know that Javon Kinlaw hasn't been that answer, but between Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave, they've kind of got that figured out. So I think that this is what it all boils down to for me. Very different paths to get here. But what it really comes down to is just being right. Like being right with your personnel choices. You can stock up on early picks. You can trade for veterans. You can do all kinds of different stuff. You just got to be right about it.
Pick the right players with whatever path you choose to make. And you get a get out of jail free card with the trade that you made at San Francisco at quarterback, and then the hit that you get with Brock Purdy, who has totally transcended draft position and been the kind of player that they probably hoped that they were going to get when they made the investment that they did for Trey Lance.
Just had a random thought. How many the 49ers have to be the team in the NFL with the most different quarterbacks to get them to the Super Bowl? Kaepernick, Purdy, Garoppolo, Young, Montana. Do other teams have that many different quarterbacks?
How many teams have played in that many Super Bowls?
Right.
There's a volume component there that they get a rep every 2 times they go. They get a different guy.
If you're a 40-year-old 49ers fan, good for you. Good for you. It's been a great run in the world of professional football in your fandom.
So I think the ways that they've put their teams together is fairly different, but I do think that you see some parallels from like a positional spending perspective outside of the quarterback position, where these are two teams that even Christian McCaffrey right now, they're spending at the skill players outside of, I think you look at the offensive lines. Let's start there. Let me get my thoughts collected here. Kansas City spent at tackle, and they spent with Joe Thuney. They've had two of the more successful big money contracts to be given out to free agencies in the last 10 years with the Joe Thuney signing. Jawan Taylor is looking like a not successful signing. But they got rookie contracts with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Donovan Smith was here on a 1-year, $3 million deal. You foil that with San Francisco, where there's a big money player in Trent Williams and a bunch of rookie contracts as well. There's some parallels there. They both invest at the tight end position with top contracts at the tight end position. The defensive line, they've got first-round picks and big contracts on the defensive line. They've got linebacker cores that are more diverse and rangy than the vast majority of linebacker groups across the league.
Mm-hmm.
So there's parallels along the way. And that's the fascinating and fun part, is how differently they got there with all the different players that are in the mix for both of these teams.
Is there one you like better? Just from a team building,
give me a bona fide top one quarterback in the NFL and a slew of draft picks.
Right.
So I have the confidence that I can continue to get rookie contracts and churn that out. I think you feel a lot better about that model, where San Francisco, at some point, they're going to have to flip the switch and do it the other way.
Yeah. And what happens? What's Brock Purdy's contract going to be? Huge, right? Back-to-back NFC championships to the Super Bowl. I mean, this guy's going to get paid. And how does this look when they're committing massive amounts of their cap to a quarterback, especially one that maybe isn't quite the guy that elevates people around him, but I mean, certainly winning more and more people over all the time with some of those gritty moments, and they'll have to evolve, right? You have to.
It's everything's cyclical.
Yeah.
All cyclical.
All right, we got more to get to here. Eventually, we're going to make a pick. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff here in just a second, so be sure to stick with us. But, folks, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventures could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for just about anything. And gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. The 2024 Nissan Armada will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com.
So, previewing the game, you have this really interesting contrast of people picking the game versus the spread itself of the game. San Francisco's favored by 2.5 on FanDuel, I believe is the last number that I saw this morning.
Yep.
Just about everywhere you pull up for analyst predictions of the game, Kansas City, in what I have found, has an overwhelming advantage. ESPN is an example. Their analysts, they got 64 experts who weighed in on the game, 49-15 in favor of Kansas City picking the game. And that's about in line with what I see in a lot of places that I've been able to find.
Mahomes in points, man, in the Super Bowl feels like a pretty good idea to me.
Right.
To me, when I think about who's going to win this game, I think a lot about the 49ers defense and what we saw against Detroit and Green Bay in their path to getting to the Super Bowl. It's looked kind of vulnerable to me, whether it's been the run game or the pass game. I think situational moments have really been more favorable for San Francisco in critical moments than it's been, how their defense has put them in position to win or not win. And so extra time to prepare, Mahomes playing hot, Kelce playing hot. I get a little nervous about what this 49ers defense is going to look like on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think there's The defenses, for me, as much as you want to make it about Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and then Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I think the defenses on both sides really is the story of the game. Kansas City came into this year with the youngest defense in the NFL. Chris Jones was the only starter on the team from when San Francisco and Kansas City last played in the Super Bowl.
Wow. That's like 4 years. They turned over the whole damn thing. Wow.
It's the only start on the defense from the last time that they played.
It's incredible.
So you have that element for San Francisco where there's been some struggles, but there's the human element of these teams playing again. I don't think the human element tilts one way heavily or another just because you're playing the Super Bowl, right? Like how much extra motivation or revenge factor do you really need to get up for this game, right?
Yeah.
The Kansas City, with 2 weeks to prepare, with Steve Spagnuolo, and what they have done from a pressure package standpoint this season, they really know how to get after offenses. And you saw Brock Purdy with extended plays in the NFC Championship game coming in at critical moments down the stretch. But I still really like Kansas City's ability to match personnel with San Francisco. And then you have that element of, do I think Brock Purdy will be a net asset against this defense for 60 minutes with what Spagnuolo can do from a pressure standpoint? And I don't have the confidence there for me to feel really good about saying, yeah, I'm going to pick San Francisco to win the game.
Unless there's tackling problems, right? I mean, that's kind of the X factor there, but I tend to agree with you. And not that you go into a game like this and your number one concern is Brock Purdy and scrambles, but I feel like Kansas City is a team with what they do at linebacker. They play 4 of them in Bolton, and Gay, Tranquil, and Chenal. They're very versatile players that they're willing to, they'll dial up some pressure stuff with Chenal. They'll use Gay as a spy. They can do some matchup stuff. Bolton, really good downhill player. They have nice complementary skill sets there, and I think that helps them with the variety of heavy personnel and condensed sets that you're going to get from San Francisco with 2 backs, multiple tight ends. I think those linebackers, in addition to some of the size that they have on the edges, helps, right? I really do like the idea that San Francisco oftentimes employs that, hey, we're going to have big people against little people in the run game. Well, Kansas City in a lot of ways can match that personnel, which I think puts them in a really good spot defensively against the 49ers, where you think, okay, where has you've seen some vulnerability in the Chiefs defense this year? It's been sometimes running the football, sometimes throwing the ball to tight ends and running backs. You'd feel like San Francisco has that they could take advantage of, but I also like how KC can match personnel, and then what they have at corner, really good man coverage guys in McDuffie and L'Jarius Snead.
Are you shadowing Aiyuk with Snead? Because I think that's what I would do. I think you're burning Snead if you try to mirror him with Deebo with all the different places that you put Deebo.
Yep, and they do that. Snead's a travel guy, and I think you want as much McDuffie on Samuel as possible, and I think you live. And that's what they've done. They've done this is how they play other teams, and they live with this rotation of Jalen Watson and Josh Williams as the other corner. And I mean, that's the matchup that you'd love to be able to take advantage of if you could. But the 49ers have that guy. I think that can be an important part of the 49ers script.
And you mentioned the linebackers, the physicality and the range of the linebackers for Kansas City too. The prospect of containing Deebo Samuel is group tackling in space, right? So if it's going to be Watson and Williams kind of platooning on Deebo with wherever else he ends up, or even Juwan Jennings as the other like big-bodied receiver who gets some running, gets some targets and some big moments for San Francisco. Deebo makes so much of his hay with the ball in his hands after the catch. I think those linebackers can help rally, and they're physical enough and they're fast enough that they can help overlap, and you don't have a true one-on-one matchup to really consistently take advantage of and then let Deebo does what he does best. And Joe, we haven't even talked about Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford against Chris Jones.
49ers have kind of figured it out all year, but this is a different cat, right?
A little different ball game, figuring it out against this dude.
And they move Chris Jones around, right? So like if there's matchups they like, they're gonna put Chris Jones in those situations. And it's not just him, right? Like Karlaftis has had a great season.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a guy like Mike Dana, is super underappreciated player in the league. You know, it's not just Chris Jones up front. And of course their pressure looks are really strong as well. They know how to attack a pocket.
So I think all that adds up, and I really like Kansas City's personnel matching against San Francisco. When you put the shoe on the other foot, you've kind of outlined San Francisco's defensive struggles against Kansas City. I don't know. Kelce waking up in the playoffs has just been a revel, and it's not structured stuff. It's I'm feeling space, and Pat feels space.
Yep.
And that goes back to the very first drive against Baltimore, where Pat gets off his spot and he laces this ball just to green grass, and Travis feels it and makes this diving catch for a big play. And if you let those guys off the leash and they just, it's more about feel, you have a really hard time being right.
Yep.
Because it's not about leveraging the route. It's about they're reacting to you.
Yeah, Kelce's so tough for defenses because he forces you to break your rules, right? You want to play zone coverage, and you know your landmarks and where your eyes are supposed to be is different when you play Kelce, because with Kelce on the field, your eyes have to be on Kelce, and that creates problems. And I think what makes this Mahomes-Kelce connection so special is you have a very good quarterback in terms of extending plays and navigating the pocket. And that allows him to manipulate zone coverage. And what does Kelce do? He just finds space, right? He's not like he's not running a ton of routes. It's not like, oh, you got to deal with the bench route and the over, the comeback, dude. He's just finding space. Right. And with that strong middle three, it gives them the time. He's got the pocket depth to navigate and work. And so it's just hard. It's just hard to deal with. And when they're on like they are right now, good luck.
Yeah. So I think the story of the game for me comes down to if San Francisco is going to win the game, I think defensively their stars have to take over the game. I think Nick Bosa with a matchup against either one of the tackles has to take over the game. I think the linebackers in Greenlaw and Warner have to be absolute middle of the field monsters for 60 minutes and play like games of their lives. Whereas I think for Kansas City, if they're going to get beat by San Francisco's offense, I think it's the ancillary players that are going to have to do more to win the game. I think Juwan Jennings and Kyle Juszczyk, I think they have to make some big plays for you in big spots because of how good Kansas City is in leveraging what you want to do and defending it. And they have the personnel to kind of take away your preferred options no matter how you try to cut it, in my mind.
I think one other X factor I want to call out in this game is the kicking game, the kickers in this one. Harrison Butker's an unbelievable kicker. Like I assume he's going to make every single kick. Jake Moody, rookie from the 49ers, he's three of five in the postseason so far. He's 84% on the season. Like if this is going to come down to a big kick, I'm picking Butker over Moody every single time at this point in their career. So little X factor there to be mindful of. All right, we'll give you a pick on the game here and get into some other fun stuff in just a second, so stick with us. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on a 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer.
Okay. We did the entire game predictions conversation. Did we say Christian McCaffrey's name once?
Good running back.
I guess we talked about him in segment 1 with team constructions. Obviously, an X factor is Joe Thuney's availability. Doesn't sound promising for his ability to go. Nick Allegretti's going to step into that spot. So I think that gives you maybe a little bit of hope if you're San Francisco to have Armstead and Hargrave get a little bit more push on the interior of the pocket. But I still take everything that we said, and my confidence is much higher in Kansas City with their defense matching up against San Francisco's offense. 2 weeks for Steve Spagnuolo and Patrick Mahomes. It's too much for me to pick against Kansas City. So I'm picking Kansas City to win the game.
Patrick Mahomes has a Super Bowl week routine, Kyle Crabbs. Yeah, put me down for the Chiefs.
Who was it? Was it Mecole Hardman on Hard Knocks? They did the prediction. Did you see that with the magician?
No.
And they asked him who they were going to play in the Super Bowl. So Mecole Hardman was on the Jets at the time, right? And they bring this magician in on Hard Knocks with the Jets, and they say, who are you going to play for the last game of the year or whatever? And he says, we're going to play the 49ers. And what's the final score going to be? And 31-21, I think was what he said. And the magician turns over the card, and it's got Jets over 49ers, 31-21 final score. And Mecole Hardman was the guy that they asked into the prediction. Well, now where's Mecole Hardman?
Chiefs.
He's on the Chiefs. So they asked Mecole Hardman who they were going to play in the last game of the season. And maybe Mecole Hardman with the magician was answering the question for the Chiefs because that was the team he was going to finish the year with, not start the year with. So you can give me 31-21 as the final score of the game.
Oh, you're going. I think that's incredible logic.
Yeah.
I'll say 28-24.
Oh, so you think it's going to be close?
No. It's 28-24, but it's it's really 28 to 17, and they score with 3 minutes left in the game or something like that. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
We can only be so lucky to be 3 minutes and have a 1-score game, right?
Right.
Make it interesting.
Kyle, there's other stuff going on with the Super Bowl. Reba McEntire singing the national anthem. Usher at halftime. I'm pretty excited about that.
What's your thoughts on all the money that's being spent on the halftime show and Usher's not taking, and I think this was the case last year for the halftime performance too, but artists are leveraging the halftime performance show for impressions and exposure and not getting paid to do the halftime show.
Why can't you get both?
Well, and also dude, you're Usher. Is the younger generation really that uncultured that you need to get out in front of a bunch of, what is it, Gen Z? Is that the new one? I don't know. Whoever the 18 to 24 demographic is now, and reintroduce yourself to a whole new generation of people. Is it that bad? You're Usher, man. I have a really hard time thinking that.
Yeah, but we look at Usher differently, dude. This was the soundtrack of our middle school and high school dances, brother, man. It's a different world. Our 18-year-olds right now, are they familiar with the song catalog and the greatest?
It's a genuine question. I don't know.
Brother, you think I have a clue? I have no idea. But they should get acquainted.
Usher put out an album was.
It's been I think he just put out a song. It showed up in my Spotify New Music Friday this past week. It didn't sound too good to me, but the dude's got bangers, man.
He just put out a single, Ruin.
Yeah, it's not too good.
Off of Coming Home, looks like the album. So I guess we're putting out an album this year.
I'm excited. But you're Usher, right? That's exciting for you. I think it's
his album releases tomorrow.
Yeah, it's smart. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. He's going to be okay. He's going to make a few bucks.
So that's the leverage play that makes sense. I'm going to go on. I'm going to play all my hits. I'm going to play 2 new songs off the new album that just dropped on Friday, and then everybody's going to hear it at the Super Bowl halftime, and that's how I'm going to. Okay, it makes a little bit more sense knowing that he's dropping an album tomorrow.
Could you think of a more different person to sing the national anthem than Reba McEntire?
No.
I love country music, and I especially love 90s country music. Reba's not like my favorite.
I met Reba once.
Did you?
I met Reba once in, was it Austria?
Oh God. let me get out of the way here, Kyle Crabbs.
Hold on. I need you to filibuster for 30 seconds so I can get my information right.
Kyle Crabbs, he saved. We're 30 minutes and 40 seconds into this podcast, and Kyle is going to break out a meeting Reba McEntire in Austria conversation. And hopefully, what is Google going to tell you? What could you possibly be looking up right now? I need to
make sure I get the logistics right of where we were.
Oh, you want to make sure that this city is really, because I know you had some global travels as a wee lad.
When I was a teenager, we took a couple trips overseas. My parents thought it was really important for us to get out and see the world, and we were fortunate enough that was something that was realistic for us. So we went to China for a week. We went to Germany, Austria, Switzerland. It was like a 10-day bus tour through AAA. I think it was across Western Europe. And we went to Jungfrau in, was it Austria?
Kyle, if you told me to say a city in Austria, I couldn't tell you.
Excuse me. It was
Switzerland? Okay. Still
and there's a castle there, right? There's an ice palace in the glacier where you get to walk through.
An ice palace, like Elsa from Frozen.
Google the ice palace in Jungfrau.
Okay, Ice Palace. I'm doing this right now.
It's Jungfrau.
Oh, yeah. I would have never spelled that. Oh, this is literally where Frozen was. Okay, this is terrific.
Right, there's an ice palace in the glacier, and you walk around, and it's all this stuff. And there's a restaurant there, and we were eating at the restaurant, and 3 tables down from us was Reba McEntire. So I was 12. I didn't know who Reba was, but my parents knew. So we just went over and said hello, and that was it. So that's the story. But long story short to say, I met Reba one time.
Yeah, at the Ice Palace in Switzerland. This is incredible. I thought my Luke Kuechly story in Bozeman, Montana was pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
This is something.
I would rather have Luke Kuechly in Bozeman, Montana than,
I don't know, man,
than Reba at the Ice Palace. Yeah, you could have given me Dolly Parton though. I would have rather had Dolly Parton after the half.
We got Dolly, didn't we? She was. Oh, was it Thanksgiving?
I know. It's why I wanted her again.
Understandable. Now we get Reba. Take the over on the national anthem. She's going to draw that out, man. She sings slow, right. So that's going to take a minute. Commercials. I don't know. I'll try to. I'm usually on Twitter during the commercials, so I'm not sure how many of those I'll see.
I wish I cared. Right, we already got the Paramount commercial with Drew Barrymore and Tua, and that was the big hit. We'll call that a Super Bowl commercial and be like, oh, that was my favorite Super Bowl commercial. I had Drew Barrymore and Tua and Sir, what's his name? Patrick Stewart throwing Hey Arnold up a glacier. That was cool. That was it.
Oh, look at our quarterbacks are uniting over Paramount commercials. Peppa Pig and Josh Allen.
He bombed Peppa, right? He threw her.
No, he didn't throw Peppa. No,
who did he throw?
I think there was a transformer that tried to throw something and it didn't work out. Yeah. I don't know.
The faces of the league. Josh Allen threw a tongue of the law.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get to talk about them in the Super Bowl, instead of
commercials.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Just let mine go first and then you can have
No.
So we have a couple parlays over at FanDuel in the Parlay Hub that I know we're over, but
Ross Jackson back-to-back days.
Preview. We're gonna go over.
Somebody commented on YouTube, said, "Who's Ross Jackson?" Well,
our boss.
It's our boss. Tells us to make these shows under 30 minutes. We want to keep
it 30 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
So there's a 4-pick parlay in the Parlay Hub over FanDuel for plus 619. And it's Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown, Travis Kelce anytime touchdown, and both Mahomes, Brock Purdy plus 250 passing yards.
Feels like
you like it or not?
Yeah, I like that.
250 plus for both of them is where I get a little apprehensive on that one.
I would agree, but it's
not
good odds.
I would not play this one for plus 619.
Okay.
4-player anytime touchdown combo for more than double the odds, plus 1263. I like this one more for the payout potential. McCaffrey, Pacheco, Kelce, and Deebo Samuel anytime touchdowns parlay.
Plus
1263.
Ooh, yeah, for 1263, that's good.
Yeah, you bet $10, you win $126.
One's not.
That's talking my language.
This one's not bad. Plus 435. Kittle 40 receiving yards. Mahomes 225 passing yards. Kelce touchdown. McCaffrey touchdown.
I'd take that one in a heartbeat as well.
Yeah. Check out
I got one more for you.
Okay.
It is plus 884. Pacheco 60+ rushing yards. Kelce 7+ receptions.
Mm-hmm.
Kelce touchdown. Deebo Samuel touchdown at plus 884.
I like that it's 7+ touchdown receptions for Kelce, because I feel like 7's probably a good number. If you told me you had to get it was 7.5, I don't know if I'd like it.
Yeah. So there's some popular parlays in the parlay hub over at FanDuel. But get some good plays. Check it out. That's going to do it for us for our Super Bowl 58 preview show here on Locked on NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Our apologies to Ross Jackson for today's show going over, but we got a lot of content to cover. We had to talk about Reba.
Yeah.
Young Frau.
Didn't expect the Austria or the Ice Palace story here, That's what set us over.
That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. We'll be back again tomorrow for more conversation. Come on back and see us. We're out of here. Peace.